Okay, so I am joined with Steve from our latest season of Survivor. You had a wild ride. Like, I felt like you were like sticking it in, like you were sticking in there for so long. I was like, they're gonna get Steve out, they're gonna get Steve out, they're gonna get Steve out. And you managed to make it so far with, I think, a huge target on your back. So
Yeah.
congratulations on that. That was really, really great. Um, Starting off the season, did you have an initial strategy coming in? And if you did you end up kind of straying from it as the season went on?
Did I have an initial strategy beforehand? No, 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 no. Um, I think maybe a mindset that probably affected like what you're saying of having like a target. Like I definitely had a mindset that I wanted to attack the game and not play like a meek, boring game to coast to the end because um I don't know, these are fun, so I wanted to have fun with it. So a strategy necessarily, no. Other than be ready to be adaptable to things, but no, I didn't come into it wanting like a huge um target on me that I had and whatever, but I was ready to roll with anything and have fun. Wanted to have fun.
Did you have fun?
Yeah,
Good. Then
yeah,
check mark that box. Um,
yep.
so your first tribe, and actually like even the swap tribe that the both of those tribes you were on avoided tribal council almost the entire time. I think you only went to three pre-merged tribals, and there was a lot. There was like maybe 10. So that was pretty good. Do you think this helped you forge better relationships or hinder them since there was less opportunities to test the alliances that you were making?
I think it kind of depended on, no, I don't think it really helped to go, but I think it would have hurt to go more. So, um, the first tribe we went three times and they were all relatively easy votes. One of them got a little scary and it was the vote right before swap. And I think everybody could kind of sense that a thing was going to happen in the game. And I could tell people were getting itchy about we've kind of made easy moves. We've kind of taken out quote unquote inactive people. I could just sense that there was this itchiness to do something more, and that something more was probably me. So I did avoid that, which was exciting.
That's the
And
one that
then
Liv
we
went home,
only
right?
did no, that would have been Ryan.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, the live vote was a mess. That was that but um my name wasn't, I guess, out there, but I really did think that Liv and Jimmy would aim for me there. Yeah.
Well, and I guess that kind of leads into my next question because that was the first vote that you tried to get Jimmy out. You tried again, and both times it didn't really work out. Was there a better
I
shot or a different time that you could have gotten Jimmy out that you think it might have worked, or do you think it was just kind of not really in the cards?
well, I've been trying to get Jimmy out twice. Hold on one second. Sorry,
Okay.
multitasking. I, the second vote for Jimmy at merge was the throwaway. Um, and I had nobody was listening to me that vote anyway. So I I don't even think that I necessarily tried to get Jimmy out in the live vote. I just didn't think that the plan was solid. I didn't think we were going to accomplish what we were accomplishing there. So honestly, and Jimmy might laugh at this if he listens to this later. I thought neither Liv or Jimmy was going to go. I thought they were going to throw their tokens, and it was either going to be me or Luke, or if it was me and I played my idol, and then Liv goes home, right? Unless Liv played an idol, and then my one vote does matter. Um, but I thought they had every safety net possible to make sure whoever they wanted to go home went home. Um, and I thought for sure it wasn't going to be Liv. So I thought the best thing to do was to actually put a vote on Jimmy. Best case scenario, two idols get played and votes against whoever get canceled out and Jimmy goes home. Cool, that's fine, whatever. But my backup plan was that like, okay, Jimmy stays and I put a vote on him. I feel like Jimmy is going to recuperate better after that and be more willing to work with me after that than if we had failed to vote for Liv and Liv stayed. So, which
You
I think worked out
yeah, I mean
eventually.
it did. It was chaotic, but it ended up working. You mentioned your idol. How did you kind of strategize having it? Who did you end up telling? And is there something you wish you would have done differently with your idol?
Well, I had two.
You did have two.
So,
You did have two, damn.
so the first one I told no one. Um, I I really the that I think I think a lot of people also in that vote sense that merge was coming because it almost had to be. So me and Jimmy both played them, not necessarily fear of like getting votes, but just wanting to make that next stage, like that insurance plan. I don't know. At that point, there was nobody on the tribe that I would have told. The second one, I also didn't tell anybody about until the day of the vote, where I was like, shit, I don't have numbers, I don't have whatever. And I was in the car. I was coming back from Tennessee that day. And I had stopped and I was talking with Jimmy a little bit. And I was like, okay, I can VC here for like 5 minutes at the rest stop. And we did. And like that whole day, everything felt off with like Leah and even Peter and Luke. Like everybody wasn't really like saying much. And Leah felt way too comfortable after losing Derek. And it was like, okay, they're definitely figuring something out. This is something's not right. And I assumed Jimmy wasn't in on any plan or whatever with them, but I didn't really care. I had to tell somebody, so I told Jimmy I have an idol and I'm playing it too. So, and then Brooke knew right before the vote that I had an idol as well.
Um, kind of
So some of that
also,
was timing.
hmm,
Some of that was timing,
yeah,
but Brooke wouldn't have been told in until Jimmy told me that it was on me. I was like, perfect, like even better. Now we can weaponize it.
yeah. Kind of still talking about that early merge. You were in the Leftovers Alliance. Um, and this had a lot of the heavy hitters in it. Basically, all of you, I think, made like the end game. Do you think that getting
Yep.
some of those players out earlier would have helped or hurt your game in the long run?
The people that weren't as flashy of targets needed to go earlier. Brooke and Luke had like none of that like um perception. Not that they weren't doing well, clearly, but they like the perceived bigger people were like me and Jimmy. And it was like like my whole gameplay revolved around um needing to keep in not necessarily shields because I think especially early merge, I was probably the number one target no matter what. So you can't really have a shield, but you can have lightning rods, as I like to call
Okay.
them, other people that are always going to be a distraction. Faya was a great distraction. Like Faya needed to stay in the game for sure for me because he was always going to be somebody that people were also talking about. So I needed out the Rachels of the world, the Lukes of the world, the Brooks of the world, because they aren't ever a lightning rod. They might be a vote out for whatever reason, and people might want them out for whatever reason, but they're not necessarily like, we have to get this person out because they're going to win the game. It's we have to get this person out because they, whatever.
Yeah. What was the most important relationship that you forged in this game?
Jimmy,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, Jimmy one at final nine or so.
Kind of getting towards the end of the game, did you have kind of like a planned ideal final three that you're like, this is who I should go with, this is what I should try and make happen?
Uh, I would have taken anybody. I would have taken literally anybody. Because not that I think that I would have won, but because I think that they would have been scared to take me in fire. I think um I think I even against people that had good cases, I also had a good case. So I didn't necessarily worry too much about um exactly what would have happened. My ideal final four, I think, would have been Jimmy, me, Luke, and Brooke.
I mean, that almost happened.
Yeah. And then I think um, what I would have loved to have done is won immunity and weaponized it and then taken Jimmy out.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, I was playing a game where I don't know that I had to give up immunity, but I think it would have followed the path of what I was doing to make one more move like that.
What is something that you learned about yourself or like how you play from this game that you can take with you into the next org that you play?
Well, I'm not playing another org, so
Okay.
there's that. I say that all the time. I'll be in one in
Don't we all? Don't we all?
I'll be in one in 18 months from now, though. Well, I don't really do Survivor ones, so that was kind of interesting. I knew that Survivor would be a little bit different, in terms of how you had to lie and decoy plans, etc., and plan around idols and whatever. Most of the time, you can play a little bit more directly. In like Big Brother type games, you can say, "I'm voting you out," and
Hmm.
there's nothing about it, right? Like if you have the numbers for it, great. If you don't, you you still really don't lose a whole lot by saying this is what I'm trying to do, because you're only pissing off one person, whatever. Yes, of course, lying and snaking is involved in Big Brother and other games as well. But in Survivor, you like literally have to have a plan that people think you're telling other people, a plan that you're actually telling other people, and like the actual thing that you want to do. So
Yeah.
juggling that would have been a lot easier to me if more people were playing that way. A lot of people weren't, um, in this game, I think, having backup plans of what they were going to tell people, which is why Leah went home because nobody had a good enough backup plan for what they were telling, like me, right? Like Peter and Luke didn't come and be like, "Oh yeah, Leah's saying your name and we're gonna agree to it, but we're actually doing it." Like that would have saved Leah's ass and Vince would have gone home.
Yeah.
I would have still played my idol, but Vince would have gone home. Um, so um, what did I learn about that? I think I don't know. I definitely this is one of the only orgs I think where I've had like a super huge target from very early on. There are a couple other games I guess I can think of where toward the end people probably were like, Steve has a chance. But in general, I don't think that's a generally perceived um audience and in-game perception of me. So um I don't know. I didn't mind it. I thought it was more fun to play that way actually. And be like, okay, fine, get me out then.
Like
Do
make it
it.
a challenge. Yeah.
Like because because if nothing else, it can be like, all right, well, I did this to myself. I got myself in this predicament. But it really was to like once I started to go on that path, it really felt like um I get to the end, I don't have to claw and fight for the 4 votes I need to win. I can claw for 7 votes. And like everybody in the jury will at least, people could be bitter, people could not want to vote for whatever. And my game certainly was far from perfect, right? Like there's definitely flaws and holes that people could have taken umbrage with. But um, I think going into playing a game that is a winning game, whether or not you win or not, I think is a cool thing to take away from it. And going into a game where the jury, at least all of them, would be able to be like, yeah, I could see myself voting for him to win,
Yeah.
as
I see.
opposed to having to fight and really like tell a story, like already have the story ready to go.
Yeah. Um
A cake.
if you so you mentioned that you felt like you had some flaws that people could have kind of pointed out if you made it to final tribal. Is there a specific move that you looking back now, like a couple days past the season, you're like, why did I do that? I wish I would have done something different.
Yeah. I wish I had written Liv's name down instead of Jimmy's. I think that would have I think that I think Jimmy took advantage of that. I think Brooke took advantage of it. I think everybody kind of took advantage of that moment. Um, and I countered it as best as I could, which I do think I did pretty good with, but I just didn't see it happening. And the read that I have, I still think is right, that like Jimmy and Liv were not giving me the exact type of energy that I would expect from somebody that's voting with you. So like the read was wrong, but all of the blocks for that read were correct. So whatever. But I think voting for Liv there would have been slightly helpful and maybe not playing my idol. But even then, I don't think they were huge missteps. But that's the only thing that I can think of that if I had written Liv's name down instead of Jimmy's, things could have potentially been a little harder to divide, like me and Peter and Luke, which I know like why I assume Jimmy was doing pushing really hard at that point. Um but other than that, I think the other thing that isn't a mistake, but people would have harped on is I did not actually have a whole lot of agency getting into merge. Like I had to just basically do what I was told. I could have cared less if Derek went home at final nine. Derek was giving me shit. In my head, Leah was running the game. I would have much, if we were going to take a shot there, I would have much rather taken a shot at Leah, who I thought if she gets to final seven is winning. And we're at final nine. So if we don't do this now, like if we don't do this now, Leah's winning. I had no read on Derek's game. Maybe he was doing really well. A lot of people thought he was, but he was giving me shit, meaning like nothing. So in my head, he wasn't as likely of a winner. And Jimmy really pushed Derek there, and I was like, okay, whatever. Well, I suppose like either way, like none of them are talking game to me, so it doesn't really matter who I vote as long as like one of them goes. Even though Leah vote wasn't a whole lot of agency, yeah, like I said, I'm playing my idol and we're doing Leah, but without other people, without Jimmy doing what he did, that also doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I get the flashy move of swinging the idol around and saying bye, Leah, but even that can't be fully credited to me. So I think those would be the things that like agency wise people could say, he didn't really do anything. And in Family Feud, like we didn't have any vote there. So
Yeah.
we
Um
could have thrown the challenge and tried to vote out Luke, but I didn't trust that that would have happened. So
kind of switching over to like when you were on the jury, looking at who was in the final three, did you kind of know where your vote was going to lie, or was it more up in the air going into that final tribal council?
I think it's really disrespectful to have a locked in decision ahead of time. I really do. Even if you are leaning a certain way, I really think that it sucks as somebody that's been in the final two to have where people's votes are locked and they don't listen.
Yeah.
So
What kind of pushed you to vote where you ended up voting for that
I
last?
voted for Jimmy to win. I thought um, Jimmy answered. Uh, Jimmy and Peter both had several good answers most of the time, and Brooke's game was solid as well. Brooke had some really solid answers and things to say about their game. Um, the jury question I had asked was, "Tell me something that surprised me," and Jimmy's answer really surprised me. So, I was like, "Okay, you little shit." That's probably enough. Plus, the jurors were pretty vocal about who they were most likely supporting, and um, it uh, it seemed pretty clear that it was between Peter and Jimmy, and I was happy with any of them winning. I would have been happy with Brooke winning as well, but the the final tribal performance, I give a slight edge to Jimmy, and gameplay wise, getting to there, they were probably both pretty even. So
Cool.
that's why I did that.
So this last question I've asked everyone is kind of just like a lighter one. What was your favorite moment of the season, whether it be like a funny moment or a funny VC or even just like a move that you made? Like, what's the one moment you're going to look back on when thinking about doing this season?
And a funny moment or moments that I think are funny because people get angry. Um,
Whatever you want. This is your question.
I thought there were probably like 3 or 4 times where it was a little shit in competitions. Like that portal competition, we were down 2 people. I said, "Can we do this workaround?" And they said, "Yeah, why not?" And Tara can say whatever they wanted about it, but I'm assuming it was Tara that was complaining the most about how it went down because they lost by like 10 seconds. Oh well, sorry, sorry that like I can think quickly on my feet. Same thing with Family Feud. I know Vince wasn't too happy about what we did in Family Feud, but we got such a lead in it that it made sense to throw it. And there's some other competition that we did similar things, I think, but I can't think of what it might have been. Anyway, competitions where I did stuff like that and people were annoyed at a whole team, even though it was completely me that said, this is how we have to do it.
Love that. Well, Steve, thank you so much for doing this org. If you listen to the pod, we were very high in your game the entire time. We just kept saying they're going to get Steve out, right? They're going to get Steve out, right? And then
Oh, and I knew I was going to get taken out as
you
well.
just kept making it further and further though, and we're like, are they not going to take the shot? Like, what is going to happen here? So we were really impressed by how far you made it with how much your name was coming up and like how like prominent you were as like a threat. So honestly, great job, and you were really fun to watch. So thank you so much for
Great thing.
this.
Of course.